On a cold night in the North Atlantic, the RMS Titanic was 4 days into her maiden voyage, slicing through calm waters under a starlit sky. The ship, the largest liner ever in service, carried over 2,200 souls bound for New York. Unbeknownst to many aboard, at 23:40 ship's time on April 14, 1912, the Titanic would strike an iceberg, setting in motion a disaster that would claim over 1,600 lives. Unusually, the lookouts had no binoculars, a mix-up at Southampton, though that night's total darkness might have made them of limited use anyway. Just 9 minutes before impact, subtle haze and a rare mirage obscured the horizon, concealing the looming ice. Why did the Titanic proceed at full speed into a known ice field? This video answers that question by tracing the precise timeline and the pressures behind the decisions that sealed its fate. From 9 o'clock that day, Titanic had received multiple ice warnings. At 9 o'clock, SS Nordam reported icebergs and field ice. By early afternoon, ships like RMS Baltic and SS Athenia relayed ice sightings, prompting Captain Edward Smith and J. Bruce Ismay to adjust course slightly southward. Still, Titanic maintained approximately 22 knots, a standard practice prioritizing schedule adherence. The wireless operator Jack Phillips was overwhelmed with passenger messages and cut off the final warning from SS Californian at 22:30, missing a crucial alert that Californian had stopped for the night due to surrounding ice. At 23:30, just 10 minutes before collision, Californian's radio operator shut down for the night, unaware of Titanic's impending disaster. At this time, lookout Frederick Fleet saw a faint haze, and then at exactly 23:39, he spotted an iceberg directly ahead. He rang the bell 3 times and alerted the bridge. First Officer William Murdoch ordered a hard starboard turn, causing Titanic's tiller to move right and the bow to swing left. Engines were ordered to stop, but not reverse, reducing helm effectiveness. The ship grazed the iceberg on the starboard side, buckling the hull plates and opening 6 of 16 watertight compartments to the sea. 5 minutes later, all engines stopped and the Titanic began drifting. Within 45 minutes, 13,500 long tons of water flooded the ship, far overwhelming pumps designed for 1,700 long tons per hour. Shipbuilder Thomas Andrews and Captain Smith inspected the damage and realized Titanic's fate. The flooding impacted more compartments than the ship could endure. Despite this, Captain Smith initially maintained a calm demeanor, ordering lifeboats to be prepared at 0:05 on April 15th and beginning evacuation 20 minutes later. Instructions to put on lifebelts met skepticism. The muster varied by class. First-class stewards actively assisted passengers, but third-class passengers were left largely unattended, hindered by locked gates and language barriers. At 0:45, lifeboat number 7 was lowered with only 28 aboard, less than half capacity, reflecting a broader trend of underfilled boats. First Officer Murdoch and Second Officer Lightoller interpreted the women and children first order differently, impacting how men were allowed to board. Several boats launched with many empty seats, while passengers hesitated, some refusing to believe the ship was sinking. Meanwhile, engineers fought to keep power and steam controls operating, with none surviving after the ship sank. By 1:20, passengers on deck had grasped the ship's doomed status, saying farewells. Distress flares and radio signals, including the SOS code suggested by wireless operator Harold Bride, were transmitted continuously. The nearest ship, RMS Carpathia, 58 miles away, began steaming at top speed through treacherous ice. SS Californian's captain, Stanley Lord, had halted at 22 o'clock, and his radio operator had gone off duty, missing repeated distress calls. At 1:30, Titanic's bow angle reached about 5 degrees down with a growing list to port. Lifeboat loading became increasingly frantic, filling close to or even above capacity. Reports describe panic as men rushed lifeboats and were fired upon to keep order. Collapsible boats, stored inverted, were launched late, with some men jumping aboard during descent. J. Bruce Ismay, White Star chairman, escaped on one of these last boats, sparking controversy. Around 2:05, lifeboat Collapsible D left with 25 aboard. Captain Smith was last seen making his rounds, helping others, then heading to the bridge. Moments later, at 2:15, Titanic's angle rapidly increased as water surged through deck hatches, triggering a massive wave along the boat deck. The ship's structure fractured between boiler rooms and bow, splitting into 2. The stern rose to 30 to 45 degrees before plunging and disappearing beneath the waves at 2:20. 2 hours and 40 minutes after the iceberg collision. In the icy waters below, near freezing at -2 degrees Celsius, nearly all who entered died within minutes due to cold shock, drowning, or cardiac arrest. Lifeboats, mostly with empty seats, gathered near survivors but feared swamping. Some returned to rescue swimmers. Most did not. Those on collapsible Boat B and a few other rafts clung to survival overnight. RMS Carpathia arrived around 4 o'clock, rescuing the 710 survivors by 9:15. Historians debate why Titanic proceeded at full speed despite ice warnings. One theory emphasizes the maritime culture prioritizing punctual schedules over risks. Captain Smith and White Star Line officials believed ice warnings were advisory, not urgent. Classified claims show Titanic adhered to standard practice for the era, respecting customary speeds even in hazard zones. However, critics point to operator Jack Phillips's busy wireless managing passenger messages, potentially missing critical ice reports like that from the SS Masaba at 2140. Another interpretation highlights technical factors. The ship's steering mechanism and delayed engine orders hampered evasive maneuvers at collision time. The complex British helm commands reversed compared to modern practice, causing confusion and delay. Murdoch's decision to stop rather than reverse engines was later scrutinized as reducing the rudder's effectiveness. However, evidence indicates even full astern orders might have failed to avoid contact. A further debate rests on the perceived invincibility of the Titanic itself. Captain Smith had previously expressed confidence in modern shipbuilding safety. The inadequate number of lifeboats, designed by outdated regulations, reflected this overconfidence. The crew's lack of comprehensive evacuation drills and the chaotic boarding further reveal assumptions that evacuation would be orderly and partial. In the aftermath, public outrage targeted these misjudgments. Criticism concentrated on Captain Smith, the White Star Line's management, and Californians' failure to respond. Yet official inquiries in Britain and America concluded the disaster resulted largely from accepted practice rather than negligence. This view has shaped maritime safety reforms, including mandatory lifeboats for all aboard, 24-hour radio watches, and the International Ice Patrol. The final hours revealed the human cost of rigid social structures and logistical failures. Women and children in first and second class were evacuated preferentially, while many third-class passengers were trapped or barred. The disparity in survival rates underscores how class, language barriers, and ship design influenced destiny. As the ship went down, band members courageously played music to calm passengers until near the end. Ultimately, the Titanic's sinking was the product of a collision triggered by navigational decisions amid perilous conditions, intensified by human error, technical limitations, and social realities. It was not a single mistake, but a concatenation of risks accepted by a culture more concerned with speed and comfort than comprehensive safety. The question remains, given the knowledge and conventions of 1912, could survival odds have been significantly improved? Or was the tragedy inevitable once Titanic entered that icy night at near maximum speed? The tragedy's complexity defies simple answers, reminding us how technology, leadership, and societal norms converge on moments that change history.